If you are someone who is watching your carbohydrates, maybe you're doing the whole keto thing, this is a fantastic keto gingerbread loaf recipe that may taste a little bit familiar to something that you've had at a famous coffee shop. I love this recipe because it's gluten-free, it's low carb, and high on the deliciousness scale. You will absolutely love it. So let's take a look at how I made this in my live show. We are in the kitchen. So this is my great low carb, high protein gingerbread cake, very similar in taste and experience to the one that you may go at that famous coffee shop. I won't mention it, but I love it. But this is without the carbs, without the sugar, without the bad fats, and there's no guilt here. And it's great, and it's high in protein, which is amazing. Okay, are we ready to get started here? So we've got our bowl. And at first I'm going to mix everything into here, but first we're starting with some eggs. So we have a half a cup of butter, and we also have some eggs, and I'm gonna blend that together with my, now you never know what's gonna happen on a live show with making recipes with Dr. Janine, because things happen and it's, never to disappoint. It's always going to be interesting. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to blend this up. Hopefully we've got everything functional here, and there we go. So blending up 4 eggs with a half a cup of butter, as well as some sweetener. So this is the thing, when you're using and making recipes, and this is tested and true recipe that I've made several times ongoing, because it just is so fantastic. But now we're adding in our sweetener, and the sweetener is this one is a monk fruit sweetener, but this is a great way without the carbohydrates, and it's keto friendly to be able to get that going. So there we go. And so you're basically going to blend up your wet ingredients until that's nice and incorporated. Now we are in Canada and it's a little bit cold here, so my butter isn't as nice and melted as what I would love. But then we are also going to add our dry ingredients together, and then we're going to incorporate everything. Okay, so in here I have some coconut flour as well as some almond flour. So, and we'll be posting this entire recipe, so don't worry, you will see it as we will have it. So we've got coconut flour, we have our almond flour, we also have our 2 scoops of our protein powder. So you can either use unflavored, or you can also use the vanilla flavored, and that's the whey protein isolate. So make sure that it's an isolate, because I don't want you to have any tummy issues. So you'll see the full description in the video below. Now this is a secret ingredient. This is the fiber supplement. So this is psyllium seed husk. I actually used a product and opened up the capsules of that, and that was 24 capsules of the VitaMucil opened up. And this is a binder that helps to bind everything together, as well as our spices. So we have some ginger, some cinnamon, and of course our cloves, and some ground nutmeg together in there, a little bit of salt, and I'm going to incorporate all of my dry ingredients together, and of course our baking powder. You need something to make it nice and leavened and rising. I am also adding into the wet, so I'm just going to let that incorporate a little bit more. I'm adding a tablespoon of molasses into my wet mixture. Here we go. So adding this in, and I bought an organic molasses, of course, at the health food store, and that's going to give it some of that rich color as well. Now, if you're strict keto, of course, you don't have to use the molasses. You can do it without the molasses, but I like that. I've tried this recipe without the molasses, and it didn't do it for me. It just needed a little bit of that flavor for the gingerbread loaf, of that molasses, and the color as well. I like it to be a little bit on the darker side. So there we go. We incorporate that in, and then I will be adding the wet to the dry, or the dry to the wet. To me, in my recipes, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I don't know. Does anybody know why they make those differences as to one into the other? I'm sure the professional bakers out there, you're either loving this or you're cringing right now as to my technique, as to what's going on with my gingerbread loaf. And then we just incorporate everything in together. Now, I sort of gauge the wetness of the batter. And because we have that psyllium seed husk, and oh, the smell, if you could smell this, if there was smell-o-vision, it's just divine. So you need a little bit of that water because remember, we put the fiber into the loaf, and that water is going to combine with that psyllium seed husk fiber, and that is going to be something that is going to give it that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Cohesiveness to keep it all together. So you do need that water. As much as it seems like it's a little bit, it's wet enough on its own, as that psyllium seed husk is now drawing in that water, you do need to add that 1/4 cup of water in there. Okay, so there we go. And then we go into, now I've prepared my loaf pan. That's going into, with the parchment paper, that's going to go in my batter. Oh, can we see this? I'm not so good with the, there we go. So that's going into my loaf pan. I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees, of course, and that is all going in there, and then that is going to bake for about 35 minutes or so. Your ovens are all different, so I realize that, and forgive my, there we go. Into the oven, here we go. And with the magic of a live show, here we go, here is the loaf. So then, of course, we also have the recipe for the, and I'll pop that out really quickly. We also have the recipe for the cream cheese icing, which is also low carb. So you're just going to, and we'll share that recipe as well. And then you're gonna dollop that on top. I'll just do it like this. Voila. I'll just put a little piece here on the end. Oh, yummy. And when I test these recipes at the house, I have to put, I have to put signs all over everything. Don't touch, don't touch. Oh, let me do the whole thing. Here we go. There we go, nice. And yes, and the whole crew is gonna want some, and all my kids are gonna want some. So I have to put signs on everything in my test kitchen at home saying, don't eat, don't touch, don't touch. Isn't that delicious? Oh my goodness. Here we go. And then you just, I know the crew's gonna be wanting a big slice. I'll take a nice slice from the middle. And there we go. So there you go. I hope that you use this recipe at home. It is so yummy, absolutely delicious. You will love it, and as much as we do, because it's all of the flavor without the guilt, and it is packed with protein. Remember, we added the protein powder in there. There's a ton of eggs in there as well, and it is fantastic. So I can't wait for you all to try that. I can't wait for you to try this recipe. Please let me know how much you love it as well. And for more information on the keto diet, please check out my video, Keto Diet for Beginners, What is Keto? I'll see you there.